Hi, my name's Kimberly Miner. Today is October 27th at about 12:57, and today I'm going to be demonstrating how to complete a full bed bath on my patient right here. So the first thing that we're going to need to do is do our 5 universal steps, and then we can hop right into it. So I'm just going to put on my gloves, and then we're going to take our emesis basin, and we're going to fill it up with comfortably warm water, about 105 degrees. We're going to have our patient test the water, bloop, and then we're also going to test it just in case, and it feels good. So now I'm just going to set it on my overbed table, and I'm going to begin raising the bed to a comfortable level for me to work at. Alrighty. So now that we've done that, we're going to lower the bed rail nearest us, and you're not going to want to leave your patient once you do this. So I'm just going to take my bath blanket and I'm going to spread it over top the comforter that we have here, and I'm going to ask my patient to hold the bath blanket while I pull their sheets down from underneath, and we're never going to expose them during this time. We're always going to want to keep them covered so that they don't get too cold, and just for privacy. And then I'm going to go ahead and slide off her dirty gown. I just stuck it down at the end of the bed. So now what we're going to do is I'm just going to set a towel on the patient's chest so that we can use that later. And then I'm also going to take a towel and put it under the patient's head because that's where we're going to go ahead and begin. And you don't want to drip any water onto the bed because the patient's going to be cold. And sometimes you don't want to do a full bed change after a bed bath as well. So I'm just going to go ahead and make a mitt with my washcloth, and we're going to go ahead and start. So I'm going to wash the patient's face without soap, and I'm going to start at the very center of the eye and wipe out, and I'm going to use a different side for the other eye. So now I'm just going to use another part of the washcloth to wipe the face. Alright, so now that we've done that, I'm going to go ahead and put some soap on my washcloth, and then we can begin washing the neck and ears. And you can wash inside the ears a little bit, but don't get too crazy. And then after we've done that, we're just going to go ahead and rinse everything off, make sure there's no soap left. Okay, and now we're going to pat everything dry, and you're going to want to make sure that the patient is very dry so you don't cause any moisture to sit in cracks or anything. So now I'm going to take my towel and I'm going to put it underneath of the patient's arm because that's what we're going to wash next. So at any time your water is too cold or too soapy, you can just go ahead and change it, but we're pretty good right now. So I'm going to make my mitt again, and I'm going to begin washing the patient's arm, starting at the hand, working my way up with long strokes, and then cleaning the armpit last. You're always going to want to check for any skin tears, ulcers, or any skin breakdown as you do this process. So now I'm just going to go ahead and rinse everything off. And then after we've rinsed everything, we're just going to make sure everything's really nice and dry. And then you can apply any deodorant as the patient asks you to. So now I'm just going to take my towel that I set aside, and I'm going to cover my patient's chest with it because we're going to clean her breasts and her abdomen right now. So I'm going to begin washing the abdomen first, and I'm just going to keep the breast covers for privacy. So once you've washed it, you're just going to go ahead and rinse, and then we're just going to pat that dry. Alrighty, so I'm going to pull my towel back down over the abdomen and expose the breasts. And I know you can't see, but you're just going to want to lift the breasts so that you can clean under them. And you're always going to want to check for any skin breakdown or like yeast infections that can occur. And then we're going to rinse. Now we're just going to go ahead and pat the breasts dry, and you're going to want to make sure that you're drying underneath of them as well. You don't want any moisture sitting there. Next, we're just going to go ahead and take off that towel and throw it into the dirty linen basket, and then pull up our blanket. I'm going to move to the leg, and I personally like to start at the top of the thigh and work my way down to the foot because I feel like it's cleaner that way. Some people do wash the foot first and then move up to the thigh, but these patients aren't really getting out of bed, so either way works. I'm just going to make my mitt once again, and I'm going to start at the top of the thigh and wash all the way down to the foot. We're going to want to use long strokes with this. You're also going to need to check for any skin breakdown or any reddened spots, especially between the patient's toes, and breakdown up towards the top of the thigh from fecal matter and urine sitting there. And you can also offer your patient to soak their foot if needed. So I'm just going to go ahead and start rinsing my patient off. And then I'm going to go ahead and dry them off as well. Okay, so now you would just need to change your bath water and then repeat to the other side of the patient. Before you do that, make sure that the temperature of the water is good. So after you do that, then you're going to change your water once again, and then we're going to clean the peri area. So you're going to need a brand new washcloth. You're going to need a brand new towel to stick underneath your patient, and you're also going to want to make sure you rinsed out your basin in between to make sure that we're not getting any junk in this area. So we're just going to uncover our patient a little bit, just barely enough to get up under there. And you're just going to wash that up. Make sure you're always wiping front to back, and you're never going to use the same part of the washcloth to wipe. Always check for any skin breakdowns since they are sitting in their urine sometimes. Alright, and we're just going to rinse and dry the patient. So next we're going to get fresh water once again because we're going to clean the back and rectal area next. So you can use the same towel that you had underneath the patient's head, arm, and leg as long as it's not too wet from drying, and just a new washcloth. So we're going to turn the patient over onto their side and just pull the blanket down a little bit. So now I'm going to take my towel and I'm just going to stick it under their back a little bit so that we don't drip onto the bed. So I'm going to begin washing my patient's back. And then I'm going to rinse it off and then dry it. So you could leave this towel on the bed if you were going to do a bed change directly afterwards so your patient wasn't laying on a dirty bed. Alrighty, so now we're just going to clean the rectal area. And you're going to want to check for any skin breakdown, just like with all of the other areas. Now we're just going to rinse. And then pat dry. So I'm just going to go ahead and remove this towel underneath my patient because we're not going to do a bed change directly afterwards. We're going to lay her back down. Make sure she's in a good position. Now we're just going to put a clean hospital gown onto our patient. And I'm just going to wiggle it underneath of this bath blanket so that we keep her covered at all times still. Just going to tie that up for her. And then we're going to take her blankets from the bottom of the bed and roll them back up. And then we're just going to slide that bath blanket out from underneath. And we're going to throw all of our dirty linens into the hamper. And we're going to make sure our patient's comfortable where she's laying. We're going to raise the bed rail. And then I'm going to begin lowering the bed to the lowest level to prevent falls. Alrighty, so now I'm going to make sure all of my supplies are put away and clean. I'm going to remove my gloves, perform hand hygiene. I'm going to make sure the call light is within reach of the patient and perform all of my ending procedures. I'm going to document everything that we just did, and then we're good to go. Thank you.